make amends. If there are so many risks, why do this? Why reincarnate in here? Because for all that he is a new person, the man he was is still inside him. And he was an exceptional man indeed. Yes, he was. That legacy I talked about. This is where it plays out. That's what the Reaper is gifting this planet. They say on this world that all people are born equal. Even if you disregard reincarnation, that's laughable. This boy has a hero's soul, and what I imagine will be a highly motivated mentor. He's born for greatness, in a place where greatness will be sorely needed. And if he doesn't live up to that greatness, then guide him to happiness. I suggest that be the priority, in fact. And fit in greatness if you can. A life doesn't have to be exceptional to be worthwhile. But isn't the whole point of sending him here is for him to be great? Well, sure, but no one asked you about it, so who said you have to follow the plan? The great astral beings are the ones who set in motion the events that sent this world off kilter. They're helping things along on Earth out of a sense of responsibility. That's what great astral beings are in the end. Responsibility on a cosmic scale. They tried to change that and messed it up to the point of relying on Jason Asano to fix it. That's bad. This world, and to a lesser extent yours, have gone wrong because of what they did. That cosmic consequence is what they cared about, not the people. To them, the people are just a means to an end. But you care. Yes, that's literally my job, in fact. I'm still mortal enough to care about something as tiny as a person. Did you know that's why the World Phoenix sent Dawn here? Her perspective was getting too cosmic to be of use to the World Phoenix, and she needed someone to ground her in mortality. I think it underestimated just how grounded Jason Asano is, and Dawn's replacement had to be called up early anyway. That man is a disruptive presence. He is that, Rufus agreed with a chuckle. Look, Mr. O'More, I've worked for a great astral being for longer than most who end up in my position. Something I've learned in that time is that as long as I fulfill the Reaper's directives to its satisfaction, I get to manage the details however I like. And the Reaper does not care about the living, happy or sad, great or insignificant. It doesn't care what they are, and it doesn't care what they do. Not until someone like your friend Jason starts resurrecting over and over anyway. So the great astral beings won't intervene if I end up guiding these people to just live fulfilling lives. No path to greatness. I can't speak for the others sent here like me, but I can tell you what I was told to do. I was sent here to accelerate the development of non-human medical knowledge and make sure a few reincarnations went smoothly. That's as far as my orders go. He gestured to the window and the newborns on the other side. If you want to turn these kids into a gaggle of blissfully content, perfectly ordinary people, Mr. O'More, then I am more than happy to help. Is ordinary even possible, given what they're being born into? I guess the responsibility of making it possible falls to people like you and me. Chapter 78. Things More Intimate. In the wake of Jason's departure, Team Biscuit had taken a break in Vitesse before going on an intense contract-taking spree, pushing themselves through Silver Rank as fast as they could. After the Monster Surge and the Subterranean Expedition, taking ordinary contracts like normal adventurers was almost a vacation in itself. The Messenger War was over in Yuresh, at least until some other Astral King decided the region was of interest. Around the world, however, the Messenger invasion continued unabated. Where Yuresh had seen one rogue Astral King seeking out a Soul Forge for their own ends, the other Astral Kings moved with singular purpose. They were determined to search every nook and cranny of Palimustus until they found the artifact left behind by the God of Purity. Team Biscuit fought messengers on and off, but they were not focused on the interdimensional interlopers. Monsters didn't stop spawning just because of the messengers, and the invasion made it easy for regular monster hunting work to fall through the cracks. The team found a niche in clearing out the contracts that otherwise fell by the wayside. After 2 years, though, it was time for a break. Clive had more projects than time to do them, and the others split up for personal pursuits. For Neil, it was a return to Greenstone, where the team would eventually reunite. It was a chance to visit family and check in on Nick, who was training at the Geller estate. Being Normal rank, when even silvers and golds were helpless in the face of gods and demigods, had left Nick feeling vulnerable and weak. His only ability to act was with the borrowed power of the elemental spires that placed the network of magical systems at his command. When Nick chose his essences, it was that feeling of being at the center of something powerful an introduction from Daniel Geller had seen his entry to the Geller family's most elite training program in Greenstone. Nick was developing a support power set that involved being the central hub of the team, coordinating each member and helping them form powerful synergies. Now that he was bronze rank, it was time for Nick to leave Greenstone behind. His problem was that he had no idea what was next. He'd been working with a lot of different teams, training with the Gellers, and even a few local ones that weren't. The Geller instructors had told him that learning to work with different people would make him stronger, and as usual, they had been proven right. With his training over and no permanent team to be part of, Nick had no clear path forward. He was hoping that the soon-to-be reunited Team Biscuit would have some advice. For the moment, he had Neil, who was not always focused.
"How many sandwiches do you need?"
Nick asked. The island was a very nice haven for the wealthy and powerful of Greenstone. Nick and Neil had been having regular picnics in the Park District since Neil's arrival in the city. They were currently sitting on a huge blanket with a dazzling array of sandwiches set out in front of them. "You're going to be eating some as well?" Neil pointed out.
I have a decent sense of how many sandwiches I want, and then it's significantly fewer than this.
That's not that many sandwiches.
The bakery made and packed the whole picnic basket, right?
Yeah?
What did they call this particular bundle?
I have no idea.
I think you do.
I don't remember.
I really think you do.
Fine, Neil grumbled. That was their picnic for 6 bundle.
There aren't 6 of us.
I can count, look.
Then why didn't you count in the bakery?
That was an elven bakery. They always make small portion sizes.
Well, I'm smaller than an elf, so I'm 1 portion size at most. Are you 5 times larger than an elf, Neil?
I am an elf.
Then you are eating 5 portions.
Just shut up and eat your sandwiches. You'll miss them when you're adventuring on the road. You're still figuring out how that's going to work.
Yeah, it feels daunting, you know? I'm very young, and there's always been a path laid out for me. I made decisions for myself, but there was always someone giving me a manageable number of options. Now I have the whole world opened up to me, and it's overwhelming. Too many options feels oddly like no options at all. Maybe just some guidance, you know? Point a guy in a direction.
Are you actually asking for advice or just venting?
I'm asking if you have any advice to give.
I don't have any great insight, but I can tell you the approach a lot of adventurers take when leaving Greenstone. If you don't have a permanent team, you want to avoid the famous adventuring cities. Places like Vitesse and Syrian are for the adventurers who already know what they're about. People who have teams or are in with a guild.
You're in a guild, right?
I am. The Burning Violet Guild operating out of Vitesse. All of our team are members, except for Jason and Tucker. If that's the way you want to go, graduating from the Geller training grounds will put you in good stead, especially with the new Remor Academy training annex. You could do well in Vitesse, although I don't know I'd advise that. You have a lot of eyes on you and you'd be caught up in guild politics. There's some tension in the guild right now and you'd inherit that.
What kind of tension?
A lot of people in the guild think the Remor Academy has too much influence over guild affairs.
Do they?
Probably. Not a lot of Greenstone adventurers can jump right into the deep water like that, and I'd advise following their example and steering clear of that mess. What they tend to do instead is look for a big city in one of the moderate strength magic zones. That's a natural step up from Greenstone. The monsters aren't so dangerous that you need a high-rank escort just in case. You get more adventurers assembling teams for individual jobs the way they do here. You can get a lot of group contracts without the need for a permanent team. Did you get any team offers from the Gillers?
I did. Nothing felt quite like the right fit, though.
Yeah, that feels off, not having the right team. Especially for support roles like ours who need a team around us. But that's not such a bad place to be when you're starting out. I know it can feel directionless, but sometimes it's good to see what the world has for you. Finding out what doesn't fit is a step towards finding what does.
It would be nice to have at least some
I was stuck on a team built around a self-serving coward while nursing a crush on his sister.
And now you're on a famous team with good people. And you and the sister are... yeah. So you got everything you ever wanted, but you don't look or sound ecstatically happy. What's the issue?
Well, Neil said, that isn't the team. Everything's great there. Rufus, Tyker and Jason left a hole, but they also left a proclivity for getting involved in mad cosmic events. That's been nice, just being adventurers for a while.
Yeah, you're giving off a real lady trouble energy.
Should I even be talking to you about this? Aren't you less than 3 years old?
Uncle Neil, I was born with a memory of Wild Orchid 2 shades of blue. I can handle you and your girlfriend and your feelings. But yes, keep any bedroom stuff to yourself, please and thank you.
Gods, you really are his kid, aren't you? An adorably happy smile lit up Nick's leporine face.
Really?
Yes. You happy about that?
No,
Nick said, forcing a scowl onto his face.
What's going on with you and Cassandra? Is it that you're eating too many sandwiches?
I'm not eating too many sandwiches.
You have to tell her that a lot, don't you?
I don't. Look, Nick, you want to talk about hearing something a lot. What does she ask you about every time you see her? Who does she ask you about?
Nick said with a sympathetic wince. That. It's not hard to see where she's coming from, though. You have to expect it to play on her mind, Neil. Put yourself in her place. Your ex-boyfriend dies. Okay, sad, but not a huge deal. And then you hear he's come back to life, and the stories just keep rolling in. He had a secret affair with the princess. He's spending time with Diamond Rankers, including a literally scorching hot redhead who blows up cities and turns out to be a space princess. Gods are paying him a lot of attention. He tells the great astral being who is invading the planet to leave, and he actually does.
What's a space princess?
It's like a regular princess, but in space.
I didn't know that, so I'm fairly certain Cassie doesn't know that.
Not the thing to focus on, Uncle Neil. The point is, Cassandra dumped the guy, not because she wanted to, but because her family decided he wasn't going to amount to anything. Now he's a living myth, and she's quite naturally wondering what could have been. That's something that's gonna play on her mind until she meets Jason again and gets some closure. Hopefully.
Neil groaned and sullenly bit into his sandwich again. Nick shrugged and grabbed one for himself. They ate in thoughtful silence. I see what you're saying, Neil said when he was done. That makes sense. It's understandable that Jason would be on her thoughts like that. But it doesn't make it any easier to hear her talk about him every day. Ask about him every day. I can tell her to stop, but that just means she's not doing it out loud.
Yeah,
Nick said,
Like I said, she needs closure. Maybe suggest she sees a mind healer like Arabelle. That's just a good idea for any adventurer. But your best shot at her letting it go is having her meet with Jason and get it all out of her system. I'm not saying that it'll solve all your problems. There's no guarantees when it comes to what's going on in someone's mind. But if she's fixated on the image of him that's stuck in her head, she probably needs to see the reality to at least start moving past it. Neil picked up another sandwich, looking at it forlornly. How bad is it? Nick asked. Well, it's become clear that Cassandra and I won't work until she gets past this. Are you sure? Nick asked. Because Jason's not coming back anytime soon. Neil let out a resigned sigh. Yeah, Neil said. Thanks, Nick. I think I already knew what I had to do. I was just, I don't know, scared, I guess. That was all just mixed up enough that I've been talking myself out of doing what I have to. You know you're gonna stuff it up, right? Yeah, Neil said with a sigh. I know. Why? Cassandra asked. She was watching Neil pack his clothes into a dimensional duffel bag resting on his childhood bed. Because you're not with me, Neil told her. You're with the closest person you can find to a man you dumped 8 years ago. This is about Jason. Yes, that's about Jason. Do you even realize that's the third question about him you've asked me today? I haven't seen him in years, which is probably the issue. He's on your mind and that makes sense. If I didn't know him, it wouldn't be a problem. But I do, and that makes me a source to assuage your curiosity. It's planted between us like a thorny hedge. If we try to force our way through it, we'll just get torn up. Until you see him and get some closure, it's always going to be there. The timing's just wrong for you and me right now. What's closure? Neil flashed a sad smile. I've been seeing a mind healer regularly. I think all adventurers should. It's helped me with how I look at the world. What? Why are you talking about mind healers? Closure, he said. Confronting an aspect of your past and tossing out all the baggage that comes with it. You need to sit down with Jason and sort through your feelings. You think I want him instead of you? No, I know it's not like that. It's a complicated bundle of feelings, and you need to untangle it before you and I can have anything together. Neil, this is crazy. You're being jealous and insecure about a man I haven't seen in years. I'm not jealous, Cass. Well, I am a little, knowing that he's the one on your mind. That makes sense, though. You weren't with him for that long, and you've known everything about me since we were teenagers. I don't have any mysteries left for you, and there are always questions about Jason. You think I'm a cat, chasing after the most interesting thing that tumbles into view. You don't have to ask what I think about you, Cass. What I feel. You've known since I was a kid, smitten with his friend's big sister. Since a boy's infatuation became a man's love. But there are things you need to settle within yourself before you and I can be anything more than a casual fling. And a fling isn't enough. Not with you. That has to be all or nothing. I won't accept the middle ground. And since it can't be all until Jason Asano stops living in your head, it has to be nothing. At least for now. You're not worried that if you let me go now, something might happen when I see him again? No. I know Jason, Cassandra, better than you ever did. He's a long way from the person you knew, and he's my friend. He and I were a lot more than friends, Neil. Who says a lover is more than a friend, Cassandra? There are things more intimate than sharing a bed. He went back to shoving his clothes into a dimensional bag. So that's it? Cassandra asked. You're accusing me of being hung up on Jason, and you're just leaving? He paused, packing his clothes, and took a slow, calming breath. Without taking his eyes from the bag, he spoke with the careful enunciation of someone straining to hold in an outburst. Do you remember what you asked when I got back from having lunch with Nick? About Jason making a person, and what Jason's fight with the astral beings was like. It's like this every day, Cass. I'm not going to be your consolation prize. You're not a second choice, Neil. He turned on her with wild eyes. Then don't treat me like I am! Cassandra, it was always you for me. Long before Jason came along, why do you think I was so pissy when the two of you were together? It wasn't on Thadwick's behalf, I can tell you that much. Maybe
instead of walking out the door with no warning, you can sit down with me and talk about this. What's there to talk about, Cass? Having you stop asking about him every single day? Even if he's not on your lips, he'll be in your head. Nothing I can do can fix this. All I can do is make it worse, and that's why you and I aren't going to work right now. Is that what you think of me? That I'm just using you as a surrogate for him? No. I don't think you're faking the good times we had together. I don't think you want to trade me out for him. But I'm here for this relationship, Cassandra, and that's all I'm here for. Feels like you're here for something else as well. And this is only going to work if it's you and me, not you and me and him. I'm not looking to resume my relationship with Jason Asano. I know. But it doesn't have to be romantic for him to be a palpable presence between us. The man in your head and the one in the stories are so different that you can't let it go. And I understand that. I can tell you all day that the man you remember hasn't existed for years. But you need to see it for yourself. And that isn't possible right now. So we wait. That doesn't mean you have to leave. You don't have to punish me for it. Neil's eyes went wide, and he dashed forward, wrapping her in a comforting hug. I'm not trying to punish you, he said. None of this is your fault. All my fault. It's just timing and circumstance. Your feelings aren't wrong, not the ones about him, or the ones you have for me. If I didn't know Jason, I wouldn't be this constant reminder in your life. But I am.
Is this yours?
The way things stand, my presence is only making things worse for
This
you.
one.
I hate doing this. I'm so scared of destroying everything. Tears streamed down both of their faces as they continued to hold each other. If you hate doing this, she said, then don't. I'll have to, Cass. Some things don't work out, no matter how much you want them to. And right now, we don't.
I need this
Chapter
bun.
79. No question over who it was. Greenstone was divided into two sections. The smaller portion of the city, although still large, was an artificial island. It was the domain of the nobility, adventurers, and those with the wealth and influence to keep such company. In a stunning failure of imagination, the artificial island had been named the Island. The larger and older part of the city showed creativity in being named Old City. It hugged the coast where the magically fed Mist-Run River created a sprawling delta. Old City was raised up on thick foundations and secured behind a massive wall. Numerous inlets fed the city with the magic-infused water on which much of its infrastructure relied. Old City had been run by a trio of crime families since the wealthy and powerful had all moved to the island. So long as the trade kept moving and the money kept flowing, the noble houses and merchant barons were satisfied to let them. The situation had gone unchanged for more than a century until the last few years of sudden upheaval. Two of the big three crime families had been eliminated. The leader of the third had been legitimized and installed in the newly formed office of Mayor of Old City, answering directly to the Duke of Greenstone. It was part of a wave of change, following a number of events centered on the Adventure Society. In the Old City, crime obviously hadn't been eliminated, but with the legitimization of the last crime family standing, much of what had been shady business was brought into the light. The darkest corners of the city were cleared out, the worst depravities quickly eliminated before they could embarrass the new mayor. The famously corrupt city militia were disbanded as protection rackets became security services. They still took the money but offered actual protection and no longer clashed over territory. Gambling houses and brothels were no longer subject to conflicting crime families and corrupt militiamen, but now they had to pay taxes. The most recognizable landmark in Old City was the Fortress. A holdover from Greenstone's early days as a colony, it had long been the place where old money and Old City sleaze came together. Even as the city changed, the Fortress did not, remaining the place where the reputable of Greenstone could slake their less reputable appetites. Former Magic Society director Lucian Lamprey had been shameless enough to maintain a large and highly visible office amongst the stands for the fortress's fighting arena. Such brazenness had led to his downfall, however, and his successor was not so careless. Bouchard Finn had been Lucian Lamprey's long-time deputy. He had done the actual work during Lamprey's famously corrupt tenure. Pochard was a man who understood the value of discretion and the consequences of failing to maintain it. He did maintain an office in the fortress, like his predecessor, from which to conduct his less savory business and occasional indulgences. Rather than being used for garish displays of power, however, it was hidden away from prying eyes. It was also well guarded, relative to the city it was in. The essence users of greenstone were famously weak, and good thugs were getting harder to come by. The once atrociously corrupt Adventure Society was getting cleaned up alongside Old City, and there were fewer dropouts with every passing year. Those that did were quickly snapped up by the noble houses or the mayor of Old City for relatively honest work. Pochard had a few of the scarce bronze-rank criminals as guards, although it was more to secure his affairs in his absence than through any need for protection. Pochard's silver rank, though gained through cause, made him one of the most powerful people in the city. That held true right up until some adventurer came waltzing into town, usually a Geller. Fortunately, the Gellers mostly kept to their compound in the Delta and stayed out of local politics. When they didn't, things could change drastically, however, as the last few years had shown. The city was still settling into its new normal after the last time adventurers had thrown their weight around. Pochard realized they were throwing it again, specifically in the form of one of his guards. The door to his office in the fortress exploded as his guard flew through it, sending splinters of wood raining down. The guard didn't slow down until he sailed across the office and crunched into the wall. The man didn't move, he fell in a heap, although a whimpering moan indicated he was still alive. That kind of force only came from a silver ranker, and one with proper aura training if Pochard hadn't sensed it. When a large man stepped through the now smashed doorway, it was inevitably a Geller. It could have been worse, Pochard reflected. It could have been Danielle Geller rather than her son. What trouble he would be was yet to be seen, but there was no way he could be as much trouble as his mother. That woman had walked into the heart of the Magic Society campus and thrashed the director half to death in his own office. Pochard remembered the Geller's son from various high society events. Polite, forthright, and a little lacking in confidence, given his background. He had always been a large boy, but seemed smaller, almost shrunken in his hesitance. Years had clearly hardened him up as he strode through the doorway like the chiseled image of a god, needing to turn a little to fit his broad shoulders through the passage. Pochard got up from behind his desk, ignoring the moaning guard as he stepped around him to greet Humphrey Geller.
Lord Geller,
Pochard said.
it's been some time. I didn't realize you were back in the city.
I'm not, officially, Humphrey said. That's why I'm here in the fortress. It's the place for illicit affairs. It's my first visit, actually, although my fiancée is more familiar with it.
Your fiancée?
Surely you remember, Mr. Finn. You're the one who brokered the deal to have her handed over to your old boss, to be used in service of his depraved appetites.
I have no idea what...
Don't lie to him. A female voice cut him off. Pochard turned to see a woman standing behind him. There was only one doorway to the office, and he hadn't seen her use it. He recalled that her powers were focused on speed, not stealth, which was rather disturbing. She'd gotten inside too fast for him to see, without kicking up so much as a breeze. The Celestine was still the most beautiful woman he had ever encountered. The chocolate skin, contrasted by silver hair and eyes, was as striking as ever. She looked little different, despite ranking up, as there had been little to improve upon. The changes were subtle, the sheen of her hair and the luster of her skin.
Sophie Wexler,
he said, realizing he'd stared a little too
You're
long.
bouncing, but it's not.
are you here seeking
falling.
recompense for your treatment at the hands of my predecessor?
Are you going to claim you had nothing to do with it? She asked.
That would be an obvious lie, he said. It was no secret that Lucian Lamprey would have accomplished very little on his own. A dire lack of discipline. So I would admit that certain arrangements were facilitated by me.
I grew up around people like you, she told him, slime clinging to the walls. I don't blame you for your part in my unpleasant days here. You were doing your best to slink towards the light, and I understand that. But Humphrey's a good man, who never waded into the muck like you and I have. He has ideals, and those ideals take a certain view on people like you. So don't lie to him, Finn, and don't try to keep us from what we're here to take. Otherwise, you might find out just how intolerant he can be of your kind.
especially ones who have done things to me. He's not going to cross the line, Bouchard said. He's an adventurer, and quite the upstanding example of one. I remember his mother making very sure of that. He's not going to sully the Geller name.
Yes, Sophie said. He is a Geller. Old Greenstone nobility. And here the Fortress Greenstone aristocrats do the things that they don't talk about after they leave. Like putting their hands on either side of your head and slowly squeezing them together. Sophie, I'm not doing that, Humphrey said. A look of annoyance crossed Sophie's face. Humphrey, I'm intimidating here. Just stand there looking large and handsome. I'm not going to slowly and painfully kill anyone, Humphrey insisted. I'll do it quick and clean. It's easier to get rid of the body that way. Oh, like you know how to get rid of bodies, Sophie said. I've spent a decent number of airship rides sitting next to Belinda, Humphrey said. She told me all about the best ways to discreetly eliminate corpses in Greenstone, no matter how many times I asked her not to. I don't think she's really killed as many people as her stories implied, though. She hasn't, Sophie said. She used to clean up for the Silver family when they killed people. You remember the Silver family, don't you, Finn? Your boss teamed up with them to go after our friend, and as a direct result, that family and your boss are both gone. What do you want? Bouchard asked. We want your archive code secret sheet, Sophie said. Bouchard's eyebrows shot up. You're after the archive vault? He looked from Sophie to Humphrey and back. You're a thief, he told her. So that makes sense. But him? Does your mother know what you're up to, Geller? Talk about my mother some more, and see what happens, Humphrey said. Where is the archive code sequence sheet? There's a safe in my office on the Magic Society campus. It's secured in there. Humphrey stepped forward, but stopped at a gesture from Sophie. That's the last time I stop him when you lie, Finn, she warned. It wouldn't matter, even if you got it, Finn said. There are numerous fail-safes on the archive vault, and that code is just one of them. If I give you my code sequence, it would still take 2 more sequences from directors in other branches to open the vault in my branch. The code is constantly changing, so they need to be communicated simultaneously. Might I remind you that the Waterlink system is managed by the Magic Society and has alarms set up if it's used to transmit vault code sequences outside of scheduled times. Yes, Sophie said. Assuming that we have friends dealing with other branches, we would need an alternative to the world's only long-range mass communication system. So there's nothing to lose in handing your code sheet over, and a head to lose if you don't. You know that if you do this, the Magic Society won't let it go, Bouchard said. Even if you fail, even if they can't prove it was you, they can't be seen to have let you walk over them. They'll come after you. He turned to look as a new person entered the room. Unlike Sophie, ranking up had made generous changes to Clive Standish. The awkward, gangly researcher Bouchard had known was now lean and handsome. His old, perpetual nervousness was nowhere to be seen. If Standish was involved, Bouchard had no doubt the vault would be successfully breached. The man had always been frustratingly thorough. Has he handed it over yet? Clive asked. Not yet, Sophie said. The relay towers for communication. In place and tested, Clive said. All we need is the last sequence fragment. Strip him and scrape him down. He always liked to hide things on his body with false skin. Bouchard failed to hide his surprise, drawing a smile from Clive. Yes, Deputy Director, Clive said. I've always known about your inept little tricks. Did you really think no one would see through the Magic Society of all places? It makes sense, I suppose. The Society is all politicians now. If it wasn't, I wouldn't have to do something this drastic. It's Director now, Standish, Bouchard said, mustering what he could of his dignity. I haven't been Deputy Director for several years. Really? Clive asked. You're in this situation and you're being studious about the title. This is a reflection of a much larger problem. But you don't have to worry, Director. I don't think they'll let you keep the position. Not after your part in publicly releasing the archive vault research. Centuries of hoarded secrets open and available to all. Aside from the restricted content, obviously. If we're going to make an enemy of the Magic Society, let's not make one of the Adventure Society as well. They'll never let you go for this, Standish. Then I suppose you'll feel vindicated when they string me up. Hand over the secret sheet, Director. Scowling, Bochard had lifted up his shirt and peeled the false skin off his abdomen and placed it on his desk. On the opposite side of the fake skin side was a sheet with a row of coloured splotches, as if dabbed on with paint. "That's it?" Humphrey asked. As they all watched it, the colours all changed. Clive took a crystal from his pocket and waved it over the sheet. The colours glowed for a brief moment, and Clive put the crystal away. "That's it," he said. "I was worried he'd have a dummy sheet, but this is the real thing. I guess he's not as smart as I thought." "No, he's smart," Sophie said. "It's trying to follow a fake us that would be stupid." "True enough," Clive agreed. He opened his dimensional space, a small portal ringed with floating runes. From it, he pulled out a hand mirror. He tapped the face of the mirror, and a 3x3 grid of symbols appeared. He tapped on the symbols in sequence, and they vanished, replaced with a pulsing light. A humming sound rose and fell in time with the pulses. After a few moments, the light and sound stopped. In their place, an image of Belinda appeared in the mirror. She looked to be holding one similar, and a large steel door was behind her. "You got it?" she asked without preamble. "We've got it," Clive told her. "Okay, before you tell me the sequence, wait for the next sequence shift to give us the most time. These sequences change every minute." They waited for the colours on the sheet to change again, and Clive read off the colour sequence. "Blue, red, indigo." "What in God's wet crevice is indigo?" Belinda asked. "It's a darker purple than violet," Clive said. "Then just say purple." "What if there's another shade of purple later?" "You've got the sheet. Is there another shade of purple?" "Not right now," Clive admitted. "But the colours change." "Then just say purple." "There's nothing wrong with being precise." "There isn't going to be another shade of purple, Clive." "How can you know that?" "Because no sane person wants a conversation like this. Look, we wasted too much time. Wait for the next sequence." "Fine," Clive grumbled. Humphrey, who had moved next to Sophie, leaned in to whisper. "How confident are this burglary plan? It's called a heist, honey. How confident are you in this heist plan?"
Let's
trust
curve
in me,"
ahead.
she told him, a smile teasing at her lips. "Look, can I go now?"
Hi guys. Wala nang butas na yun. He have a back for the back. For his own back.
Backrest.
Yeah.
Right curve ahead.
I can get one for mine also.
Yeah.
Speed limit reduced ahead. Turn at the first left. Turn at the first right. Your destination is on the right.
Tight here. It's the only thing I hate about automatics. The fact that I cannot choose a lower gear for reverse kind of sucks.
We're here now in the parking area, which is yung mga truck. May nagpa-park dito for resting. Ganyan. Ito sa love. Para din siyang 7-Eleven. So, McDonald's was there.
Straighten out a little bit with these guys. Try to back in this one.
Baby, can I borrow your charger?
Good job, man.
Are we gonna go inside? Because I need to put bra.
You need to what?
Bra.
So what are you waiting for?